Good morning. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. And since the focus is on faculty, I will talk about, before I talk about the subject, I'd like to pay respect to three teachers who have shaped my life. First is my mother. Unfortunately, we lost our father very early in life. So not only was she a mother, she was a teacher in a school. She taught me what you see me stand for, which is respect for people, respect for society. And she's the one who formed Sampark Foundation and asked me to quit HCL in 2013, give everything up, the private jets, the French cuisine, everything up and start Sampark Foundation. So my first homage to her as a teacher. The second teacher was my geography teacher. Her name was Sister Shalini. And I still remember the great lesson she gave me. She was teaching geography. I had no interest in geography. So there were only 6 of us in a class because I come from a very small town in the foothills of Himalayas. There were not many students there in the class. We were the first batch. She took us out in the open and pointed up to the Himalayas because you could see the Himalayas from our school grounds. And he says, what are beyond the mountains? And we gave her all kinds of answers, and she kept on asking, are you sure? But what else can be beyond the mountains? And in the end, after whatever, 5-10 minutes, we said, okay, we don't know. She says, let's go to the class and find out. And that changed my life forever. And I fell in love with geography. I still go to the mountains every year on high altitude treks, and I still remember her. My third teacher was at XLRI. His name was Father McGrath. Unfortunately, he recently died, one of the dawns of MBA education. Now, as I told you, I come from a very small town. I finished my engineering, had not traveled too much outside, took a train. It almost took 48 hours to Jamshedpur, landed there, still getting used to the environment around. People from all walks of life are there, first time hostel life. And then I entered the first class. And this is American, tall, 6 feet, 6 inches, gentleman walks in. You know, he's not very young, but the energy levels are amazing. And he walks in and he starts talking about some concepts which I don't understand. What he's talking about, I can't get his accent. I can't get the subject he's talking about. I'm an engineer. And within the first 15 minutes, he completely lost me. And I was looking out of the window and, thinking, gazing about some other things in life. And suddenly there is a group of Adivasis who came and attacked the class. And the group of Adivasis came and stabbed him in his stomach. Some of our class, we were on the first floor, went onto the window, wanted to jump out. There was blood all over, there was noise all over. And there was complete panic. And I was stuck to my seat, not knowing what to do, completely panicked. And then suddenly he got up, and the Adivasis vanished. And he says, I have staged it, just relax, come back, and write down what did you see. There were 39 of us, and all 39 saw something else. There was not a single common thing in the 39 stories. Some saw this, somebody saw 5 people getting stopped, some people saw 2 people coming in, some people saw 20 people coming in. And that was the first lesson he taught me in life in terms of don't believe what you see or hear. Sometimes it is not true. Most of the times it's not true. You have to give it time to come to the truth. Truth is not what you see and hear. Truth is beyond what you see and hear. The reason I'm paying homage to all 3 teachers is because what a person becomes is learning, is what you learn. And then there's the 4th teacher who was not a teacher by profession, but I believe my most profound teacher in life. So her name is Mrs. Anand, her housewife. We were in Nagpur, National Environment Research Institute. My father was working there. I was about 6 years old, and we had this, 2-bedroom flats, one over another. So she was on the top floor. And Mr. and Mrs. Anand didn't have any children, and I was this, bubbly little kid they used to love. So they adopted me from all love angle. So she will, put me on the dining table, I'll dance and all this stuff. And one day we were playing cricket, and there was a very renowned world scientist who used to live next to us, Dr. Chalpati Rao, and his window broke. And it was my ball, but I had not hit it, somebody else had hit it. And everybody ran away because Dr. Chalpati Rao was an angry young man. And I was concerned about my ball, not about his window, so I went and pressed the bell. And he opened, he says, who broke my window? And says, uncle, can I have my ball back? So he caught hold of me, he took me inside and tied me to a chair right next to the window. Now, those days you can do that. And if you go and tell your parents, they will give you a whack, why did you break the window, instead of going and fighting with Dr. Chalpati Rao, how dare you touch my child? Those days were very different, right? The hands were loose and anybody can do anything to anybody's child. So he tied me, and I really was ashamed because all my friends from the window were making fun of me. So you got caught, and I was very, very disturbed. So what lasted for hours, I'm sure it was a few minutes, but what lasted in my mind for hours, he untied me, I came out, I was sitting there and crying. And Mrs. Anand saw from the top, and she says, Mintu, that was my pet name, she says, come up. So I came up. She put me on the dining table. Dining table was a stage I will always remember all my life. There's where I learned all my public speaking and my dancing skills. So she put me there and says, what happened? I told her what happened. I was crying, and she said, so what are you going to do about it? So I told her the story again, and she says, what are you going to do about it? After 5 or 6 times, it suddenly dawned on me that she is asking me a different question. And then I said, what am I going to do about it? And then I got down from the dining table, didn't say anything to her, walked down, picked up a brick, broke his another window, went and pressed the bell and says, uncle, I had not broken the first window, but because you have already given me punishment, I had to break the second window. And he, being a very nice man, he took me inside, gave me a piece of cake, and you should not do it. But that is the time that teacher taught me a lesson of the fact that shit happens in life. What you do after that is what matters. The fact is, it happens, you can't prevent it. 50% of the time, the coin will land on the side which you don't want it to land. But what do you do when it lands on the wrong side? How long do you think about it? And the faster you pick up the coin and toss it again, the higher the chances of success. Why am I telling you these stories? The reason I'm telling you these stories is most of our management thinking originated in the industrial age. When industrial age came in, the word manager was born. I hope you understand manager is a French word which is breaking a horse into submission. So the idea was to try and see if we can organize human capital in shapes, forms, and incentivize them so that we can collectively produce more than what individually we could produce. And that is how all our appraisal systems, all our human behaviors, all the management science originated during the industrial era, and we created tremendous wealth thanks to our ability of organizing human beings, where animals can't be organized, but human beings got organized and created a significant higher value compared to what individually they were creating. So all was going well. Everybody, and that is where Peter Drucker's, the 3 Ps, product, pricing, proposition, all that markets, all that stuff came in, and everybody was very happy. Then the digital revolution came in. When the digital revolution came in, a couple of things went wrong. Number one, efficiency was not the only way you could create value. Suddenly these companies, using innovation, were creating billions and billions of dollars of valuation, which the manufacturing companies like GE were taking 100 years to create, and these guys were creating in 3, 4, 5 years. So the question everybody was started asking is the industrial revolution era sufficient to create value, or the value needs to be created using innovation? So leveraging technology, more and more companies started looking at how do you create innovation. Now, when you look at how do companies create innovation, and I'm going to talk about the IT industry also in a minute, one of the things which stuck out very clearly is that our education system doesn't teach innovation, our schooling system doesn't teach innovation, and our organization pyramids, which are dead as a dodo, are about managing people, not inspiring them to create innovation. So if you truly wish to create an organization culture of innovation and have leaders who believe in innovation, then the first thing which you have to understand is innovation is created by human beings. It is not created by an SAP ERP system. It is not created by an operations research. It is not created by a system and process. It is not created by HR in their appraisal systems. It is not driven out of incentive schemes. Innovation gets created when you inspire people to think beyond the obvious. A magician creates magic because a magician thinks outside the boundaries of logic and reason. So a magician can cut a lady or a gent in half and fly them in air because it is within his boundaries of logic and reason, but outside your boundaries of logic and reason. So the definition of innovation is to expand the boundaries of logic and reason. So where do we teach a person to expand the boundaries of logic and reason? How do we inspire a person to think about outside the boundaries of logic and reason? Do we raise our children to perform, to obey, to fall in line, to stay with rules? 6 o'clock you need to drink milk, 8 o'clock you need to go to bed, 2 hours of TV time, no more than that. Do we raise our children according to that, or are we inspiring them to take control of their life and think outside the boundaries of logic and reason? So if the organizations of tomorrow are organizations which need inspiring leaders who are focused on innovation, what is the education institutions of tomorrow? What are the leaders of tomorrow thinking? What are the creators of leaders of tomorrow thinking? What kind of stories are they telling? And that is, in my mind, a very critical aspect of rethinking MBA. I truly believe MBA is one of the finest programs in this world, predominantly because it does take a person like me who was engineer, didn't understand anything about business, and gave me an environment to work along with colleagues of mine and learn from them and learn from great teachers who would ask the right question. They will not answer the question, but who will ask the right question. And in that environment for 2 years, I think my evolution of thinking and my thinking about employee first, customer second, and all those ideas, values, honesty, employee centricity, all were born during those 2 years, which I had an opportunity of exhibiting. So how do we create those environments within our MBA school, within our schooling system? Now, that brings me to the topic in terms of a lot of change, transform, which is changing the form of something permanently, is always a difficult aspect. Staying with what works, staying with what we are used to, is the easiest thing for us to do. And therefore, how do we transform? One of the things I was in Hyderabad yesterday, and I was giving a speech to IT leaders, and Hindu is today carrying a comment of mine. If you look at the Indian IT industry, we were growing at 30%, 40% year on year at a margin of about 25% year on year. That 35% has come down to about 8-9%. If you remove inorganic acquisitions, it has come down to 5-6%. The margins, which were 25-30%, has come down to about 15, 17, 18%. And yet, when you hear the Indian IT speak, they are proud of what they are doing. The aspirations have come down, the expectations have come down, and instead of creating something new, like remote infrastructure management, engineering services, BPO services, or getting into new countries, today we are conserving. So when the aspiration goes down, we get into cost cutting, we get into cash flow conservation, we get into a defensive position, the company dies. And that is what I was talking about yesterday, that the same employees have brought us to $50 billion is the size of Indian IT industry. And because now employees are not a source of competitive advantage, but are considered as cost, we will lose the competitive advantage. Now, while I was saying that to the IT industry, I was also wondering, why are the leaders losing aspiration? Why are the leaders moving defensive? What is happening into our education system? What is happening into our culture? Why was this Narayan Murthy, Shiv Nadar, Premji, F.C. Kohli, these risk-taking, Ratan Tata, all these are risk-taking leaders. And why are we having leaders today which are building to sell? They are fudging their balance sheets. They are borrowing through political contacts. There is not a single leader you can look up and saying, hey, I like this young leader and I want to be like him. Now, what has changed in our culture? And how do we change it back so that we have leaders who will inspire us and who will we follow? And it comes back to our schooling system and it comes back to our education system. Can it be done? Now, in 2013, as you know, the HCL transformation journey was over. In 6 years, we had increased our revenues by almost 7 times. Market cap from $1.4 billion was about $20 billion. And I quit HCL to try and see if we can solve a different problem. There are 14 crore children in our government schools. There are about 760,000 government schools. Every single year over the last decade, the learning outcome has only come down. And the government investment in education has doubled. So despite doubling of investment, the learning outcome in government schools has come down. The recent statistics of national campaign on national assessment survey was the fact that in grade 5, 6 out of 10 children cannot read grade 2 text. And 8 out of 10 children in grade 5 cannot do simple math sums. So that is the state of our primary education in government schools. So the question is, how do you fix it? And the reason I'm giving you this example, which by the way is now a Harvard Business case study and not an Indian Business School case study, which always bothers me. But the way we went about is by asking 3 fundamental questions. Where is learning outcome created? We said that the learning outcome gets created in the interface of the teacher and the child. Question number 2 is, who creates the learning outcome? The learning outcome is created by the teacher. Question number 3 is, so if the teacher is supposed to create the learning outcome and is unable to create the learning outcome based on the statistics, what can we do to enthuse, encourage, enable, inspire the teacher to create the learning outcome? Because there's no other solution. You have to go only through the teacher. And that is, we said we need to ignite the classroom transaction. We need to enable the teacher. And therefore, we were inspired by Bollywood. If the songs and dances and movies of Bollywood can be an immersive experience in a village on a Saturday where they forget their hunger, their pain, their diseases, and have an immersive experience, can we create the same immersive experience in classroom? With no electricity, we created an audio box with the Sutradhar of Mary Poppins equivalent called Sampark Didi. And in her enchanting voice with songs, dance, stories, she started teaching English and maths through the audio device. And combined with a couple of very innovative teaching learning material, a mobile app which works without internet, which has mock classrooms, training 2 lakh teachers across India every year, monitoring the program on the school level. Combined, we covered 76,000 schools and 7 million children in 5 years. The learning outcome report by Feedback Consulting in Bangalore, an independent assessment, was the fact that today, remember I told you 6 out of 10 children and in grade 5 and 8 out of 10 children could not do grade 2 sums or text. They did a grade 3 assessment and they found that 82% of the children could do division and multiplication and construct English sentences, and they got 76% answers right in English, which was not true a year ago. They had not even seen English. The reason I say this to you, and I mean it, is that if you really wish to bring about a change in your institutions and build leaders of relevance for tomorrow, you have to go back to the drawing board and ask fundamental questions. Where does an inspiring leader with a human heart gets created? He gets created in your colleges. Who creates an inspiring leader who believes in employees? You. So how and what needs to be done to enable those teachers, to enthuse them, to encourage them, to inspire them to create those leaders? Because if you do not create those leaders, we will have the state of the industry as it is today. Everybody is about money. Employees are a commodity. Employees are a cost. We as a country are going to go to dogs if this is the kind of leaders you produce. So how do we enthuse, encourage, inspire our teachers in MBA schools to create the leaders who are relevant for tomorrow? That is the innovation question which you need to resolve. And you don't have a choice. The reason you don't have a choice is because you are the only one who are there. Nobody else is there. You have taken a very noble decision to be a teacher. And I can tell you now, I'm also a teacher, but I can tell you that's the best decision of your life because you're impacting lives of many, many others through many, many others. It's a multiplier impact. How many others have that opportunity? And therefore, my only hope and desire for all of you is to wake up to the reality of the monsters you are creating and to stop it and to rejig your environments and find ways of creating inspired leaders with the human heart who believe that they can only grow if they carry everybody with them. Thank you so much, and God bless you.